Welcome to Revive and Rise. I'm your host, Melody Parrish, and I want to thank you for being with us today. And we have a very, very special guest, Benjamin Schrader. He is the CEO of Schrader Promotions, LLC, and he is also severely dyslexic and is a brain tumor survivor. So, Benjamin, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's going to be a great time and a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we'll just have you start at the beginning wherever you want.
Yes. Well, yes, first off, thanks again for having me. My name is Benjamin Schrader. I run an event production company, Schrader Promotions LLC. When I was very young in kindergarten, I was diagnosed with extremely severe dyslexia, being in the 1%. I was told I would never learn how to read. I was also diagnosed with dysgraphia, that's trouble with handwriting, and dyscalculia, that's trouble with math. As you can imagine, this definitely is tough for a kid. You're told that there's something, quote unquote, wrong with you. You're told that there's a difficulty that you're going to have to get through. And I really credit my parents. My father told me, he said, Benjamin, you're going to have to work twice as hard as other kids just to get to where they are, but you're good at talking. Double down on that, become the best at that. And that's how you'll survive in a reader's world. And I took that to heart. I was homeschooled up to high school because back in the day, like we were discussing a little bit before the podcast started, back in the day, there really weren't a ton of accommodations. I mean, there were even people back then who denied the existence of dyslexia. And that breaks my heart because, you're accusing people of just being lazy when I promise you it's a real thing. I wish it wasn't, but I promise you that it is. Best way that I can describe it is it's like looking at a foreign language. You can tell the characters are there. They don't move around. They don't flip in any weird way, but you just can't put them together. It's very frustrating. It's like there's a mental block, something missing. But it's important to remember dyslexics are just as smart as other kids. We have the same number of neural net connections. They are just spread out differently throughout the brain. So I had years of reading therapy, 9 years of reading therapy, 5 or 6 years of math remediation, 5 or 6 years of occupational therapy. And eventually, the Scottish Rite program is commonly used to teach dyslexics to read. It was too complicated for me. It was far beyond what I could do and comprehend. But a very nice, an older lady whose son actually had dyslexia and was a successful pilot, funny enough. She lived just down the road, within walking distance from where I grew up, and she was a reading tutor. And I started taking lessons with her every day, and she was a saint and used the Orton Gillingham program, which was the original program for teaching dyslexics to read and was much more simple. A apple a, B bat ba, C cat ca, D dog da. These were the flashcards we'd go through every morning and then read little religious stories and little books that were very simple. And that I credit with teaching me to read. So that got me to the point, as my mother would say, I don't need to be reading like an expert, but good enough to get around town, good enough to survive, read street signs, read those type of things. And really how I would describe dyslexic reading is its memorization. So I have memorized the words and the pattern of the letters. So if I don't practice, if I don't keep up with that, I'll forget the pattern. I'll forget, okay, these characters together spell the word um, chairman, or these characters together spell the word go. So go is probably not a good example. That's pretty simple, but that got me to the point where I could survive. And I attended regular high school, and then eventually was accepted to Texas A&M, and I went there for 3 years before the brain tumor. But that can be the next thing that we get into.
Oh, wow. Wow, what a story. And you really had to have some techniques to overcome.
Ah, it was tough. Growing up feeling so different, and really, I wasn't. I'll be the first to admit my parents are saints. I wasn't always the easiest child. Never disrespectful, never destructive, but difficult because I was angry. I was angry that why me? Why was I cursed and burdened? I no longer look at it as a curse. Dyslexia made me who I am. I would not have the speaking ability. I would not have learned the value of being kind. I would not have learned a lot of these things without it. Honestly, I probably would have turned out to be a jerk. So it prevented that. And it does keep you humble. I mean, to this day, I was putting on a big concert. It's a packed house. We got a couple thousand people in the crowd. I'm walking around in my suit and I pull out from my jacket, I pull out the set list of who's coming up next, and I can't tell for the life of me what it says. I organized this entire thing. Without me, it would not have happened, and yet I can't do that simple thing of reading the page. I grabbed a stage hand and I was like, what does this say? I got earplugs in and loud music, but it keeps a person humble, and the techniques, being nice so that people will cut you breaks, the memorization techniques, the context clues. Thank God for context clues. I use that a lot. If something seems totally out of the ordinary, it's probably not the word you're thinking. It's probably a different word.
Right. Yes. Yes. And I love the fact that you say these things keep you humble. And, I feel like sometimes struggles and, things that are out of the ordinary, they provide empathy so that we can
Yes,
have empathy with others. Do you
100%. It's funny, I have a compulsion where if I see somebody who's left out, or I see somebody who oppressed isn't the right word, but is like not not being taken into the group, or really an outcast, I feel a compulsion to bring them into the group because I know what it's like. And I jokingly, and this is a play on Chinese history, I jokingly call those times the decade of humiliation, where it was that I I really felt very separate from the other kids. Everyone was reading Harry Potter. I couldn't read Harry Potter. So I watched the movies and act like I had read the book. Now, of course, I had the Victor Reader, Reading for the Blind Dyslexic, audiobooks. I could have gotten an audiobook and read it and all of that. But for some reason at the time, that didn't occur to me, though I did voraciously consume audiobooks. But no, you definitely feel very separate. And yes, empathy. It teaches you the value of mercy. And because mercy was shown to you, that there were times where professors, teachers, friends cut you breaks. They will be nice to you about something because you do bring a lot of value in some aspects, but then you have major weaknesses in others. And I'm very open about it today. Um, with both the two people that work for me are very, very aware of the fact that they are going to need to read things. And in social life, I joke about it a lot. I'm just your friendly neighborhood dyslexic. They're like, oh, Ben, how do you spell X and such? And I'm like, you are asking the wrong person. So, embracing it is something that takes a lot of time. And I would hide it when I was young, and it would come to bite me in the behind a lot. Let's say you're in a Bible study at church and little religious education, passing some book around and everyone's reading from it, and you're terrified, thinking, "Oh my gosh, when the book comes to me, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I mean, I can't read it." So you just try to act like you're shy, or you try to act like oh, sorry, I'm not comfortable reading in front of people, instead of just saying, oh, hey, gang, sorry, I have dyslexia. Could somebody else read it? But that takes time. And really, with the success of the business, is what helped me to embrace myself and say, okay, you know what? I can do things and succeed. I don't need to hide who I am.
Oh, and that's so important, I think, is when you have things like this and going through struggles, just to say, I can be who I am. I don't
Yeah.
have to hide.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's
it's so
a great
important.
a strength. Don't do you find that it brings a strength to you?
I would say that it does because you're admitting you're admitting weakness, which actually takes a lot of strength, and you're also asking for help. And that simple act of asking for help is actually an incredibly important lesson because we cannot do everything on our own. Nobody's an island. We can try to be, we can do a lot, but not everything. And the dyslexia makes it to the point where I have had to ask for help for years. So now I'm able to delegate when that needs to be done. Now I'm able to say, okay, gang, I need your help with this. Well, let's figure this out together. Let's work on this together. And that simple act of humility and of asking for help is of such a valuable lesson, but it is embarrassing. At least it was in the beginning. Not anymore, because it's not something you should be embarrassed about. But in the beginning, it was humiliating. In the beginning, I think about when I first attended high school, and the other kids would snicker and laugh when I had to go off to the learning center, portable building, as they seem to always be. The portables, the learning center, to have my tests read to me. That was, embarrassing. But I had the simple choice of, do I not be embarrassed and fail the test, or do I be embarrassed and get a B or a or a C if it's math? But um, yes, learning to ask for help and learning to delegate. But the nice thing about asking for help too is people are often happier to help you than you would expect because they feel like they're doing something for you and something nice. And so
Mhm.
people are often happy to help. And
Yeah.
accepting that in one's mind and then asking for help is critically important, and advocating for yourself.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the hardest lessons for me to learn was asking for help. And then not just asking for help, but accepting the help that,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
accepting it without resentment,
yeah,
accepting it as the kind act that it is. And boy, advocating for yourself is so important. And I was giving a speech once. I do a lot of dyslexic activism just because I'm passionate about it. Honestly, it's my people. And someone had asked me, what do I do if I'm shy? Or what do I do? My son's shy. What should he do? And that is I do not envy that because that is tough. I'm extremely, sometimes too much outgoing.
yeah,
Um, and that was a great blessing for me because that made it a lot easier for me to advocate for myself, to raise my hand and say, hey, I need help. Hey, I need to go to the learning center. Hey, I need to do this, to speak up for myself. But if you're shy, I say just put yourself in the most comfortable situation possible. So, wait till it's just you and the teacher, wait till it's just you and another person. And then it's tough, but you have to speak up for yourself because no one else will. Your parents can for a while, and there'll
yeah,
be learning specialists and tutors who can for a while. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with you and you have to speak up.
that's true. Yes, yes, I see that. Um, Let me see. I'm not sure this is recording.
But it is. It's in the
Is it?
left hand corner. There's a little recording with a star.
Okay, okay.
Technology, it is mostly beyond me.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I like that what you said just now about the accepting help and not being embarrassed, and because I find that so many times we do get embarrassed when we can't do something, and it's hard to ask for help.
Yes, no, it really is because you feel that lacking in yourself, or you're like, I should be able to do this. And this is the frustrating thing with dyslexia is that, a lot of dyslexics, we either end up in prison or we're quite successful. The statistics show that it's a 50-50 split. You're in jail or you're successful. Because, and I really think that stems from we are able to comprehend completely that something is missing, that when we sit down to read, we are able to understand that we are lacking something, that there is in our minds, there is a disconnect where things should be connecting, where we know that it was such a frustrating thing for me as a kid. I had a better vocabulary than all the other kids. I knew a lot more about science than all the other kids, but they could read and I couldn't. And it was this, in your mind, you're like, why? I know that I'm smart. Why am I being shown? Why do I feel like I'm not? And you have to remember that, you are just as smart, but you do have a challenge. And I always hesitate to call it a learning disability, even though we recently actually got recognized as an official disability, which is great, for accommodations for the dyslexic and neurodivergent community. But I will always see it as a learning difference because you give me an audiobook, uh, I can learn anything except maybe fractions. That I've had my employees explain fractions to me many times. I cannot stand those fractions. I want decimals or percentage. That clicks, but fractions, oh my gosh. Um, but no, you can overcome it. It will always be with you. It is not something, there is no cure. Do not fall prey to snake oil salesmen. There's no special text. There is no special glasses. It's not a problem with your eyes. There is no, the little reading pen that's obsolete now. But these type of things, embrace technologies that are widely adopted and use them for yourself. So voice to text, text to speech. Now on the iPhone, you can take a picture of text and then highlight it and have it read it to you. Or the Meta glasses that just came out. There are glasses with a camera on, and you can say, hey, Meta, read this. And it will read to you what is in front of you. So their technology is something that should be embraced. It's not a crutch, but it's a tool to open the world to you. And that's an important thing to remember. Some people are hesitant to embrace the technologies, but technology is how we will survive. It levels the playing field.
Right.
And also making that clear, to teachers and instructors was something important was that I'm not looking for an advantage over the other kids. I just want a level playing field so I can show you that I can succeed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. Leveling the playing field.
Because a lot of times, especially not as much today, thank God, but back in the day, there was a lot of skepticism because you're also you can be, a very articulate, smart person. So there's a lot of skepticism that, well, what is really wrong with you? Are you just trying to be clever and get things a little easier for yourself? So articulating and making it very clear to professors, and teachers. I had many teachers in high school who were like, "Oh, he'll write just fine. He'll be just fine. Get him the paper and have him write." And then I would write and they would look at it and they would say, oh, okay, you can use voice to text. Because I mean, to take the words of one teacher, it's chicken scratch. That wasn't very nice, but uh, but today, a lot of people are a lot more understanding. I mean, 20 years ago, I'm 26 myself, so 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, the acceptance of it was not there. And only recently has it really come in to be very well accepted.
Yes, yes. And I know a lot of, I have several friends that are dyslexic, but because of that lack of understanding and acceptance, they turn to drugs and alcohol.
That breaks my heart. That
And
breaks my heart.
yeah, and it's just so sad because you see that downward spiral.
Yep.
Thankfully, now that things are more accepted and those kind of things, they've gotten out of that, and
And
they've.
I can't imagine, forgive me for interrupting you.
Mm,
I can't imagine that struggle of being like, let's go back 30 years when it's not well understood.
right.
And we still don't understand the brain. Dyslexia is probably a broad term for thousands of different variations and conditions. But to be told that you are just lazy
Mm.
and to have that drilled into your head, it's like the experiment done by oddball scientists. If you tell a kid they're going to get a stutter, they'll get a stutter.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It's telling these people that no, you're lazy, you're dumb, you're just not working hard enough when there really is a physical and mental condition. And instead of that being accommodated, that being told that you're lazy, I mean, that I don't know how I would have reacted. I was blessed that my parents always, really drilled into my head, it's not a disability, it's a learning difference. You can overcome it. You're going to have to work harder, but you're good at some things and be really good at those things. And so, boy, God bless them. And I hope that they can find peace. And yeah, no, that We are people of extremes. We're either going to win or we're not going to.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But I like that. I like how successful you are and how
You're generous. I don't know about that.
and um and you're so open with sharing. Can we talk a little more? You said before about how you just felt different
Yes.
and that affected you. Can you explain more about that? Because I think
Most definitely.
there's definitely a certain kind of trauma that comes with that. First feeling like you're different when you're a child, and then as you're growing up, and even into adulthood, when you know something's the matter or different. Can you explain that?
I felt very separate from the other kids. I felt like completely different, and that was tough. Whether it was when I was young, having to go out of kindergarten and pre-K, and I have vague memories of this, but in going and getting reading therapy, to the fact that there was no school, no, literally no special school, no private school, no public school that would take me. They all said that my dyslexia was too severe, and that really the only option was homeschooling. And I really credit my parents. It was very kind of my mother, to homeschool me and get me reading therapists, tutors. And I was very fortunate that they were in the position to be able to do that. I was very, very lucky. And so that separation of being homeschooled, and at the time, my mom would form co-ops, things like that, even bring in actual teachers to teach a few of the kids in science and math and art. But the fact that I wasn't in regular school bothered me, because I'm thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. When I first was going to go to high school, I said it's going to be like High School Musical. Everyone's going to get along, accept each other, a place of just joy. Of course, it was not. The grass was not greener. But that separation of, going to Taekwondo, something that was very good for me because it showed I could be just as good as the other kids at something. But going to Taekwondo and the other kids are talking about going to school, they're talking about their classes, all of these things. And I couldn't relate. And so you do feel separate, not only for that, and I'm a big advocate of homeschooling. I really like it. I'm very against the unschoolers, people that do homeschooling but don't actually teach. That's ridiculous. But the homeschoolers, the majority, I'd say, that actually educate the children really well. I went into high school with the knowledge far beyond a lot of my peers. And so that was very, very valuable for me and necessary. And without homeschooling, I would have not been able to function. And the daily reading therapy for, 9 years, every single weekday, basically every single weekday with few breaks, just to get to a second grade reading level is crazy. But I needed it. And without it, I don't know what would have happened. So you do feel separate and you do feel different. And I don't always think that that is the worst thing in the world. I did not like it as a kid, but to say, okay, you know what, I am a little different, but that's okay. And just accepting that and saying, just because my brain works a little differently, there are some scientific theories, and this is pretty heavily debated, but has some evidence to it that, dyslexia is the old version of the brain. Before we had writing, before we had math, before we had these things, we were the ones who stayed up late at night. We were the ones who remembered things via oral tradition. And we were the ones, who were hunting the mammoths. That was us. And that the world left us behind. When the world grew and evolved, we did not. And saying, okay, how do I use the fact that I am different? How do I use the skills and gifts that come from that to make me better, to win? And I would say embrace what you are, and be open about it. I'm extremely open about it today. And sometimes, there will be moments where people will look at you and might say, oh, well, okay, he has dyslexia. I'm not going to give him this position, or I'm not going to do this thing because he's not going to be able to do it right. But if you always prove that you do a great job, and if you work really hard and you do great, then that will overcome any misgivings that people have, because they say, wow, Ben's really effective at this. Like, it doesn't matter that he can't read. He just had this big sale, or he just did this big thing. And that is how you'll survive and how you will come more importantly than anything else, to accept yourself. And I'm arrogant enough that I've never had self-hatred or anything like that. But I could see people having that. I could see people really feeling sad and really feeling angry at themselves. Don't be. We all have a cross to bear, as they say. We all have a burden on our shoulders. And I'm a big fan of Stoicism, real Stoicism. As Marcus Aurelius, the last emperor of the three good emperors, teaches us, last emperor of the Pax Romana, that we all have a burden, we all have difficulties, but to face them with a stiff upper lip and to overcome them is how we survive. And we just do the best we can, and that's all we can ask of ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, and self-acceptance, I think, is key. Um, I know I personally never really accepted myself for a long time.
You should. I'm sorry.
No, and I had you said you haven't had a lot of self-hatred or anything like that. I have.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
and so uh, recently, in the last couple years, I finally started to accept myself for how I am and things like that. And I think that is the key. When you've decided that you're okay just the way you are, it's just the way you are.
Yeah.
And it makes such a big difference in your whole scope of the world. I
It
feel.
really does. It really does. And I always emphasize this when, speaking to people, that, accepting oneself is not uh, it is not like a confirmation or acceptance of bad behavior. So like there's a difference between like bad behavior and accepting yourself. Accepting yourself is just saying, I am the person that I am, but that I'm a good person. I have a lot of value to bring, but hey, maybe I'm a little quirky or a little eccentric in my case. Maybe I'm a little too outgoing sometimes. Maybe I talk too much, these things, but a lot of these things, as long as they're not morally objectionable, like, you know, I am just, it's a simple decision in one's mind. And that is a tough decision to come to that point where you're capable of making it. But once you do, it is very helpful to say, okay, yeah, I am who I am. And I embrace that. And I'm going to work within the confines of that to be the best version of myself.
Yeah.
But no, it definitely, well, I'm very glad because I think that you seem like a very nice person, and I'm very glad that you've accepted yourself. I know that for me, I've got this little bit of an arrogant streak that is always tamped down by my dyslexia. So I was always of like, I know that I'm right, and I'm going to prove to them that I'm right. So I guess I had that more. I was more mad about it, mad at the world about it. The readers always oppressing me. But
Right.
I think that it just depends on a person's personality of how that either comes in the form of sadness or anger.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and how they see it, right?
Yeah.
How they see it and how they're treated. I think and
Yeah.
what support they have, you
Yeah.
know, so important.
I was lucky on that front to have family that was very supportive.
Mhm.
If I did not, I do not know what I would have done. I do not know what would have happened to me because that could have broke me.
Yeah.
Um, but I always had parents that would tell me, "No, Ben, you are smart," And so, because I mean, you feel dumb. You feel dumb when you can't read.
Right.
And that, yeah, if I didn't have family, if I didn't have that good support network, I don't know how I would have mentally survived.
Yeah. Yeah. And even for those of us, listening that don't necessarily have that good
Yeah.
family structure, it can be friends, it can be
Yes.
coworkers, it can
Seek
be.
to find friends that elevate you, that make you better people, that support you, that don't mock you,
Mhm.
that um, that you bring skills to them that they do not have, and they bring skills to you that you do not have. Friendship is incredibly important and can be hard for people when they're mad at the world, or can be hard for people when they're sad. But still seek it out. And the friendship aspect very, very important. And then also finding that within yourself. Just saying, no matter how you may feel, just saying, no, I am smart. No, I got this. No matter, literally, no matter how you feel, no matter what reality presents you, just say, no, I decide that this is how it's going to be.
Right, right. Yeah, it's a whole mental thing because even if you don't believe it, even if you don't think you can do it, even if you don't want to do it, just do it anyway.
Yes,
Just
just
make
try. Just try. I joke with my friends that in dating, in life, in business, there is no shame in trying. There is shame in not trying. Like
yeah,
just pick a path and go. Like it doesn't even need to be the right path sometimes. You have to try. That is the
right,
only way that you will succeed, survive, and prove to yourself that you are a winner, that you are a good, valuable person, is that if you try. And if you fall, I have failed so many times. I have been rejected for deals, business deals have fallen through, work things have fallen through so many times, so many more than I have succeeded. But when I have succeeded, those have been great and they have stacked on each other. And then you get rejected less and less, which is a great feeling.
that's right, that's right. so so now we'll kind of change the subject to your brain tumor
Yes.
because health, our physical health and our mental health can also be traumatic sometimes and what goes along with it. So can you explain to the listeners, a little about your brain tumor?
Yes. So to start, where it matters, in college, I was part of a program called Startup Aggie Land. We all lived together in a dorm at Texas A&M. We all took a very good practical class on entrepreneurship together: how to start an LLC, how to file your taxes, how to get investors, how to do all of these different things. Very practical, taught by entrepreneurs, a different teacher each week. Really, a very valuable class. And I had started my company. Originally, I was the head pitch man. So they sent me all around the country pitching for different student companies to investors and in competitions. And I really enjoyed that. And, I said, I have no product, I have no widget in my mind. But what do college kids like? College kids like to party. If I control partying, college kids will like me. So I started out promoting events and then saw the real money was in the actual coordination of events. And so I started coordinating concerts, small at first, and then grew that to being by far the largest, collegiate event production company in College Station, where we were putting on massive concerts, and then expanded to put them on all throughout the state of Texas. And that was just wonderful for my mental health, proved to myself that I could succeed. And my good friend Colton, I had met in college, taught me how to be a friend, taught me how to take joy in the victory of others instead of being a jealous person. Now, establishing all that, in my junior year of college, I was putting on a big concert, and I remember I was looking over the crowd, and I was just thinking how the hearing in my right ear was just ever so slightly less than my left. And there was a little bit of pressure, like I was in a plane, but just a little bit. And that was it. The only symptoms I had. Now, I'd been nauseous for years since high school. I had no idea. I would later find out that was a symptom of a balance nerve being destroyed, but I had no idea about that. So I just thought I had a weak stomach. That I just thought had a nervous stomach, and I just pushed through. I'm thinking, what a tragedy that I, at a young age, already have hearing damage. This is what I'm thinking. So I had gotten some high quality earplugs and always started wearing them at events. And then I said, you know what, I should get this checked out to assuage any worry so that I know I'm fine. I don't have to stress about it. I go to the doctor, and what's crazy is I almost canceled that appointment because I had another big show that I was working on, and I was very busy, and I was so close to canceling that appointment. We're talking on a knife's edge, and I just decided to go really on a whim. And I went, and the doctors looked in my ear, and they said, "Okay, it looks fine on the when I look inside it, but let's get you a CT scan just to make sure." They gave me a CT scan, and that's a scan of your bones. And they said, okay, your bones look a little weird, on one side, but you might have just been born that way. You might have just grown that way. But let's give you an MRI to make sure. And then a day or two later, I get a call at like 10 p.m. from my parents. And it was unexpected. I've talked to them a lot. They're wonderful, very close with them, but this was unexpected. I pick up and I say, "Oh, hey, what's going on?" I've not been taking calls all day from numbers I didn't recognize. I've just been working. We had this show coming up in a couple days, and I pick up the phone, and my parents sound a little worried, and they said, "Benjamin, the hospital called us because we're your emergency contact. They said just to come in tomorrow, whenever, as soon as you can, go to the hospital." I didn't sleep a wink that night. You know that is bad. You know that is bad news. When a hospital says to you, just come in, you don't need an appointment, just come in. I mean, that's bad. So I go the next day and I took an Uber, thank God, because I would not have been able to drive after the news that I got. I sit down. The doctor, looks at me and he seems solemn. He says, "Okay, are you ready?" And I said, "I'm ready. Let's do this." And he says, "You have a golf ball sized brain tumor, something called an acoustic neuroma. It is growing off your hearing nerve and pushing up against your brain stem. If you do not get it removed, you will be dead within 1 to 2 years of a stroke."
Wow.
I laughed. That was my first reaction. I laughed. And they believed it likely wasn't cancerous, and it was not. But just the sheer size of it, the fact that it was pushing up against my brain stem, and shockingly, I had no headaches. I had nothing like that. Eventually, they scheduled the surgery. About a month later, I get it removed, and 61 stitches. I know that our viewers won't be able to see this, but
Oh, wow.
you can
Yeah.
see it on my Instagram at Benjamin_Schrader. But I have a massive scar going from the base of my neck all the way to the top of my right ear. I had to learn how to walk again because I did completely lose a balance nerve. I am completely deaf in my right ear. I don't even have a hearing nerve connecting it to my brain. So it rings constantly. That's the real humor of being deaf. It's not silent. It rings constantly. About 6 months after the surgery, or actually about a year, of course, I had physical therapy to learn how to walk again because when you lose a balance nerve, you just can't tell where your head is. And you just fall over. And still, to this day, I'll stumble in low light conditions. People will joke, "Oh, are you drunk, Ben?" or something like that. I say, "Never while I'm working." And so then I had to go back a year later. They did an MRI. I have to get MRIs for the rest of my life, every 6 months to a year. And they said, the remnants we had to leave to save your facial nerve so that, otherwise it would have looked like I'd had a stroke because your balance, hearing, and facial nerve are all tangled together. The remnants that they had to leave were regrowing. So I had to, fully awake, I had to undergo a procedure called gamma knife, where they drill a vise into your head. And I didn't even take the Valium. I just took 2 Tylenol, not Tylenol 3, nothing special, literally 2 Tylenol. And they drill it. I mean, they drill a vise into your head, and the crackling sound will haunt me to the day I die. And so underwent gamma knife. It's like an MRI, but with beams of radiation. And I was just glad I wouldn't lose my hair. And my only complaint was that the nurse did not have a premium Spotify account. So every couple songs, "We are farmers, Lowe's, great new deal. Do you want to refinance your?" Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once that was done, a few months later, they did an MRI. Everything was dead. And, my body slowly removes the rotting bits of the tumor in my head. And yes, I'm tumor free. I just have to get a checkup every, couple months. And funny enough, I don't even carry the genetic marker for this tumor. So they have no idea why I got it. But
Wow.
these things happen. So yes, that is the brain tumor story. Shaped me, made me an even kinder person, and I would say that a stronger person. When you go through something, it either breaks you or makes you stronger. And I'm very hard to break.
Yes, I can tell. But that's good. That's a good quality to have.
Abstinence, but also resilience. Resilience is the most important quality, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. Can you talk to us about how you felt when you were in that moment of fear when you first heard about the brain tumor, and then not just that, but as things are happening, like as you're unable to walk, as you're unable to hear.
Yeah. No, my first reaction, funny enough, was like, okay, you know what? If this is it, I had a good run. I did the best I could. I really did. I really tried. And like, if this is the end, it was a good run. And all I've ever wanted is one good life. I'm terrified of reincarnation. I don't want to have to do this again. I want one good run, and that's it.
Yeah.
And to live to a ripe old age of 110, do great things, and then call it.
Yeah.
Let's go home. Time to go home.
That's
And that I said, yeah, I did my best. And I was scared. I was angry. I was sad, but I tamped down a lot of my emotions. And I really went into my stoicism mode where as the process went on, I kept saying to myself, and this is what got me through, is I kept saying it could be worse. I could have had brain cancer. I was blessed that an acoustic neuroma, it is the coating of your nerve. It is myelin sheath overgrowth. So it wasn't actual brain matter. I mean, because your brain, like, that's you. Like, to have a tumor, that's terrifying. I mean, that's you. That's your thinking center. And so that was terrifying. But I kept saying, oh, could be cancer, could be worse. The tumors could have been all over my body. And this story, forgive me, this breaks my heart a little bit. But when I was going to get my gamma knife treatment, getting the MRI beforehand, I ran into a man about my age, and we were talking beforehand, waiting for them to take us back. And he was saying how he had tumors all over his body, non-cancerous, but similar to what I had. And then 6 months later, or a year later, when I was back there, I ran into him again, and he was in a wheelchair now, and really didn't look like he was doing well. And all he said to me was, "Oh, you look the same." And so it could always be worse. It could always be worse. No matter how bad it gets, it could be worse. And by telling myself that, God bless that man. I hope that he's doing okay. I don't even know his name. And yeah, just that was what got me through. If I couldn't walk, the hearing is not that bad. Dyslexia is more annoying, honestly. Not being able to read or spell or write. Um, I just have to make sure that if people are on my left side, and I'll do this a lot or this. I even, being rather comedic, I got one of those little old-fashioned ear horns as a bit of a joke. That's only for private use of being silly, but I'm not a big fan of the cross hearing aids because they clog your good ear a little bit. So I usually just in meetings, I will have people on my left side, at dinners, at things like that. And then I just tell everyone, oh, hey, I'm sorry, I'm deaf in my right ear. So if you could just talk like this way. And it's the same thing with dyslexia where, you just have to tell people. And
Yeah.
so it's an inconvenience, but that's it. Like, it could be so much worse. I could be completely deaf like that. I don't know how I'd survive if I was completely deaf. I rely on text to speech and voice to text. Like,
Right.
that is how I survive in a reader's world. I don't know I could have easily had a tumor on both sides. That is extremely common. You get a tumor on both sides. If I did, I don't know what I would have done.
Wow.
And so that would have been really, really bad. And that didn't happen, thank God. So it's okay. And when I was learning to walk again, I was just like, it'll come back to me. I'll figure it out. It's like reading therapy all over again. But a little embarrassing, but many times my parents would help walk me around the nurses station, and I'd fall into them, but they caught me, and I would do the same for them. And my good buddy came to visit me in the hospital, and I didn't actually tell anyone that I had this going on originally until it was completed. I only told my employees, the one gentleman we had that concert coming up with, and my best friend. And that was it. And so I just went dark. And then I came out afterwards, and had the immense honor of some UT Film School students for making a documentary of what happened to Ben Schrader. So that was an immense honor because I just disappeared.
Mhm.
Um, but came back, rebuilt. I'd put business things on hold, rebuilt that, expanded, transitioned operations to Austin, and kept moving forward because that is all we can do. And we must try. We must try. That's all we can do.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you've talked a lot about support and kindness. And in my last book that I wrote, it was about the a brief encounter with a stranger and the kindness they shared with me that changed my life dramatically. In like 2 minutes, 5 words, done.
What
And
were the words? Or if you don't want to share, all good. But
oh, no, that's fine. How may I help you?
no, yeah.
That was it.
A
Just
simple act can go such a long way.
absolutely. And I think just knowing that somebody cared and that somebody would stay and listen, it just changed my life because
Yeah,
at that moment I was probably at my lowest point.
yeah,
And, there were so many different things that happened to me before that that changed me, like emotionally and mentally. And so it was hard for me to accept myself. And
yeah.
I didn't know if other people accepted me. And so for that person that didn't even know me to do that was just really powerful. Um, yeah.
I've always called that, I guess, concept like faces in the storm. Like we don't even sometimes know the people, and then people that have not experienced true pain might have a little trouble understanding the importance that a little act like that can show, like the critical importance of it. Like, well, what if you felt true pain and if you've gone through true struggle, then you can understand that it can literally be such a simple little thing that it can be literally a cup of water or a kind word that can go so far in preventing you from just breaking. And I always try in my life, and I think I'm confident you do the same, that anyone who's gone through these things is to be that person for someone else. They'll never know your name. They will never know who you are. They'll never know your story. But to show a simple act of kindness, a simple act of mercy is nice. It's a good thing to do because I would not have survived if people did not show me mercy, did not cut me a break, did not show me the small, simple act of kindness that to them may have been completely inconsequential, that may have just been um, them going through their day, but to me was something profound. So, no, I completely understand. I would say better than most, and that, uh, yeah, to mercy. There's such value in it, and being kind. And I find that even in business, I am not one of those people that is like, oh, be all cutthroat and
Yeah.
I think that's a very inaccurate way of how business actually works. I have been successful in the events industry because I am so nice and easy to work with. And because I don't stab people in the back, because I don't gossip about people, because I genuinely try to do a good job. And I always seek for the tide to rise and for all ships to. I always seek a win win. There is
Yeah.
plenty of cake, of plenty of pie to go around.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I am not cutthroat. I actually greatly I avoid making enemies. And that doesn't mean that I am afraid of confrontation. When confrontation comes, you face it with a stiff upper lip, but you don't seek it out and you don't seek to create it. And by being nice, people will be like, wow, this person's really easy to work with. I
Yeah.
want to do more business with them. Or, okay, gentleman that I do a lot of work with, he said, Ben, I love working with you because I can really trust you. And I appreciate that. And it's things like that that you have to be you have to be kind to succeed, nice in the world. Otherwise, when you slip up, when you make that misstep, everyone will turn on you. If you're nice, people will cut you a break. People will say, it's okay. I get it, man. It's your no stress. We'll fix this. But if you're that person that everyone secretly hates and then you slip up, well, that's when the daggers come out.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Benjamin, I want to thank you so much. This has been so wonderful. I could
Yes,
talk to you
ma'am.
for hours.
So could I. So could I. But it sounds like we both have had quite the adventures. I'll have to read your book. You'll have to let me know where I can get a copy.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You can go to Amazon and
Ooh,
find it. Yeah, definitely.
perfect.
But yeah, I want to thank you so much. Is there any uh last minute things you want to add, maybe techniques or thoughts?
I would just tell people to, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am strong enough. And then I've never been one to believe in all that manifesting stuff and all of that. I believe, oh, what it comes from is hard work. So, look in the mirror and say, I am strong enough. And then try. Whatever your dream is, whatever you want to succeed in, just try. There's no shame in failure.
Just try. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. You're more than welcome to come back anytime.
It would be a pleasure. Yes, ma'am. No, I could talk with you all day. You get me going, and then I get overexcited and I start go go go. So forgive me for that, but I know I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, yes. And everyone just remember that you do not have to suffer alone. Have a wonderful
Amen.